Nichols, professor of African American Studies at the University of Maryland. Another Jason for you today. Jason Meister, Trump 2020 Advisory Board member. I love it when these two are together. So, Jason Meister, I'm going to come to you first on this. Room to move the needle, Death Star type talk. What do you make of it? How effective could it be against Joe Biden?
Thanks, Harris. I do think that there is a Death Star upon us. I think that this campaign has built up a juggernaut of a campaign. We have tremendous digital and cash leads over Joe Biden and the Democrats. I think the Republicans have never been in a stronger position. But I also think that this election that's coming is going to come down to really three main issues. I think it's going to come down to the coronavirus and the response to that virus. I think it's going to come down to the economy and rebuilding it. And I think it's going to come down to the results and the outcome of the AG Barr and Durham probe into the origins of the Russia collusion. And with regards to the coronavirus response, the most decisive action that President Trump took very early on, when there was almost no cases of coronavirus in this country, was to ban flights coming from China. And the initial response from Biden was it was racist and xenophobic. Biden was wrong and Trump was right. With regards to the economy, President Trump created over 7 million jobs. He brought unemployment to a 50-year low. And Obama and Biden presided over the weakest and flattest recovery since World War II. Who do you want to preside over the rebound of this economy? And with regards to the
okay, let me stop you right there because I want to give the other Jason an opportunity to talk. Jason Nichols?
Sure.
Yes. So again, I think the Death Star metaphor is really unfortunate, and it's not really one that I think is going to connect with people. I think if you want to win an election, particularly with suburban women, you don't go negative from the very beginning. I think really having a position where people don't have strong feelings for your opponent is actually a really strong position to be in. You don't want him to have a passionate following. So I think right where they are is a good place.
Wait a minute, my brain just broke. Jason, why wouldn't you want your candidate to have a passionate following?
No, I'm saying the opposition. I'm saying if you're with the Trump people, you don't want them to have you don't want people to have strong feelings about Joe Biden. You don't want them to have, even if there's a small, loud group of people that follow him, like there is with Trump. I don't think Trump has a big following. But
Harris, Jason brings up an interesting point. I have never met.
My point, but
sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that he has a loud, passionate following, and you don't want that if you're Trump for Joe Biden. You don't want him to have people who are passionate about him. Now, I think a lot of the things that were being said, by the other Jason earlier with regard to coronavirus and stopping flights from China, when we know the epicenter is in New York, and the person who brought it from New York actually came from Europe. There are lots of missteps that we've seen.
Well, wait a minute. There's a lot. I mean, you can Monday morning quarterback this. Jason 2, Jason 1. You can do that. But come on, we have learned a lot in just the last few weeks about what's gone on with the origins. And my goodness, we still don't really know, do we, Jason Meister?
No,
we really don't.
We don't know.
We're looking into that with China. I've got the former ambassador to China coming up. We're going to dig into it. I mean, we really don't know. So I don't think it's fair for you, Jason Nichols, to point and say, well, when it came from here and it came from there, we didn't know this at the time, but we do know it originated in China. Go ahead, Jason Meister.
No, Harris, you're absolutely right. We don't know. We're in completely unprecedented and uncharted waters. And I think we're looking for leaders to lead us. And I think that Trump's instincts early on, when there was very few cases in this country, to ban flights coming from places where there was rampant virus, where there was an outbreak, I think was the right instincts. And I think saying that it was racist and xenophobe was the wrong. And that's the only point I'm making. And to say that President Trump, with the enthusiasm gap, I think that the fact that I've never met before a enthusiastic Biden supporter. I have met very enthusiastic Bernie Sanders supporters, but not Biden.
All right, let me step in with this. Senator Kamala Harris reportedly is emerging as an early favorite to be Joe Biden's running mate, with many top surrogates, aides, and donors seeing her as the best fit. This despite being initially written off over her attacks on Joe Biden at the debates, where she seemed to suggest he was racially insensitive. Jog your memory back to this.
There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education.
I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision. So that's where
the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act.
Whew. Politico is reporting Biden and his family were stung by that exchange, especially because Kamala Harris's bond with Joe Biden's late son, Beau. But the former VP has now reportedly come to view it as part of a rough and tumble of running for the White House. Jason Nichols. Wow. I mean, that basically was a seminal moment for her. So many thought it didn't help her rise, but it did for a minute. Remember that? She was campaigning and raising money and...
Yeah, I mean, she had a quick boost, but again, from a strategic standpoint, and I really hope that the Biden people are listening. I know the Trump people will be listening to what I'm about to say. If you choose Kamala Harris, if I were the Trump people, I would be jumping for joy, because I think the most important demographic to this upcoming election is going to be working class African Americans, particularly working class African American men, and the way that if I were the Trump people and I were in those meetings, I would hammer Joe Biden and Kamala Harris together on criminal justice. You can go back to the 1980s with the Anti-Drug Abuse Act with Joe Biden. You can go to, of course, the Omnibus Crime Bill in 1994. You can talk about Kamala Harris's many missteps in terms of criminal justice. Some of the criticism is unfair, but some of it is absolutely fair. And I would just hammer them. You're not going to get African-American men to vote for you if you're Trump, but you can get enough of them to feel that Joe Biden is not the answer and stay at home. So if you get a bunch of African-American men who don't trust Kamala Harris and aren't into Joe Biden, and they stay at home in Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee, you win the election. So I would advise...
I don't know if you could hear it, but Jason Meister sitting over there eating his popcorn because you were making his point for him. Jason?
I actually do agree. I do agree with Jason Nichols on a couple of those points. And I think that, look, the other thing that I think Kamala Harris, that the Biden campaign is going to have to worry about with Kamala Harris is that she said she completely believed Christine Blasey Ford from the get-go. And she hasn't addressed that with regard to Tara Reade. So I think that's another huge thing with regards to women and the Me Too movement that the Biden campaign has to seriously take under consideration. But I agree with Jason with regards to Kamala Harris with regard to criminal justice reform. And the other thing I will disagrey with Jason on, okay, is with regard to the African-American vote, okay, in this upcoming election. First of all, President Trump got more than John McCain and Mitt Romney combined in the last election. And he's only been tearing apart at that vote ever since. He brought unemployment amongst African Americans and Hispanics to record lows. And I think you're going to see a tremendous move towards President Trump in 2020.